Hi, everyone. I'm Kimmy, the founder of Lumarize. I'm so honored to welcome Jeanie Wilson today. She is a courageous woman who has walked an incredible healing journey, and she is here to share her story with us. So, welcome, Jeanie. It's wonderful to have you.
It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and get started with will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your life today?
My life today. Well, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I'm celebrating victory over my lifelong, feels like, alcohol addiction. I still struggle with self-worth, codependency, and the lingering after effects of a dysfunctional family.
Would you feel comfortable sharing a bit about the challenges or the trauma that you faced?
Yeah, so for me, starting off with, so I've got two older brothers. And I grew up in upstate New York, right? So not Westchester, actually north of Albany. And my parents divorced, our parents divorced when I was about 6. And my mom was an alcoholic. Through my own recovery process, I feel like I've learned that her primary addiction really wasn't alcohol, it was a relationship addiction. And so she would bring, men into our lives that weren't necessarily the kindest people on the planet. And not like she had a revolving door, but she couldn't be alone. And so she would bring people into our lives that were troubling for us as children. So I grew up with verbal abuse, emotional abuse, some sexual abuse from um, one of the folks that she brought into our home, um, and just a very dysfunctional, unsettling, not sure how to find your own core type of an upbringing, if that makes sense. So, as a consequence, I was very obviously, I'm still introverted, but very insular, very isolated, um, very prone to putting on masks to be what I thought would allow me to fly under the radar um, for the various groups around me. I went back and forth quite a bit between my mom's house and my dad's house. And so just that feeling of never really fitting in, that kind of comes along with a broken home, and the trauma that goes along with just never being the right person, never being good enough, never being um, wanted, really.
Next question. What was life like before you began your healing journey?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I was thinking about this. I would say the first word that comes to mind is dark. It was really a very dark and uncertain time. I just kind of felt like, like a piece of flotsam. I just kind of floated. I did what worked for me in the moment, and I didn't have a center. I didn't have a core. I didn't have what I would really kind of refer to as a self, because I was so much into being, like I said, the whatever I needed to be in that moment for that group of people or for that situation to just get by, without actually understanding who I am as as a person, as an individual. It's very hard for me to be around people. I didn't feel comfortable with myself. So to be around other people was very awkward, and alcohol was a way that I could do that.
It
So
releases your inhibitions.
that it does. That it does.
Yes.
That's the other part of it, is if you're not comfortable with your own self, just getting through each individual day is a chore. It's not something that just happens. It's something that you have to work on.
Yeah. Recovery is not easy.
Recovery is not easy, but it's doable, it's workable, and it's authentic, um, as opposed to another form of hiding.
And it's so worth it in the long run.
It is.
Yes. I've seen you grow, and it's been really amazing to watch your journey.
Thank you.
What were some of the most helpful tools, practices and supports throughout your healing process?
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing is community. And it's something that I really didn't have growing up. And because I was so, I'll call it inauthentic, wearing the masks all the time, I didn't really make, friends. Those, because you got to be real
Mm-hmm.
um, to make friends. And so coming in to celebrate recovery and allowing myself to, take the mask off. This is it. This is who I am. And allowing folks to support me and encourage me and challenge me. That that has been huge for me. Just the community and the support that I get through Celebrate Recovery. The 12 steps, I have gone through 2-step studies now, and knowing that there's a process that's been laid out that other folks have gone through that you can then leverage for yourself, that has been helpful for me. Um, Going through that first step study, I did it the same way that I approached walking through the door to Celebrate Recovery that first night. I did it with desperation. I said, I'm just going to get all of this out there. I'm going to lay it down. It's going to be ugly. I probably shocked some people, but it was what I knew I needed to do to stop the madness and to make a change. The other thing for me that has been very helpful in my recovery process and keeping me in recovery and advancing me in recovery has been finding a place to serve, and to be able to give back to the community that has given to me. Um, when you're serving, you're not focused on yourself. So it has been a tremendous help to me to find a place to serve, to plug in, because not only am I making connections, but I'm giving back, and I'm helping out the next person who's going to come along in their recovery journey.
That's
Yeah.
the very end, step 12 and principle 8.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Making sure you're giving back and becoming that person who can help other people because you were helped just the same way
Yep.
as you were helped.
Yep.
I
Yep.
love that. I love that. I also love that you mentioned community because when people are starting out in their healing journey,
Mm-hmm.
one of the most important things is to know that you're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You can't understate how important it is to hear, because I feel like a lot of us come from you're coming out of a place of darkness, and you feel like you're the only person in the world who's dealing with this set of issues, or this tape that's running in your head. You're the only one, and Satan lies to you in that, this is just you. Nobody else is going to get it. So finding a group of people who will say to you, dude, I've had the same experience. I made the same decision. I had the same factors. Becomes we.
mm-hmm.
So that's helpful.
Yes,
Super helpful.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that we're basing Lumerize on is building that community of healing so that people have an opportunity to know they're not alone, to read other people's stories and to see that other people are having these experiences
Yeah.
and to also see that there's hope on the other side
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
So
It's so important. I'm so glad you're doing that.
thank you. Thank you. Um, were there any moments along the way where you felt like you couldn't make it or you needed to give up or wanted to give up or
Yes, there were definitely times early on where I wanted to give up. I just wasn't sure that this was going to work. It wasn't so much with the alcohol. The alcohol for me was more of a symptom. Um, and when I started to dig into the reasons why I was drinking, that's where you start to uncover some stuff that it's the monster in the corner, and maybe it's going to be too big for you to fight. Um, so yeah, for me, I grew up with and perpetuated upon myself an extreme self-loathing that was extremely hard for me to come to grips with. And because I hated so badly who I was, and I would present a mask to cover over what I felt like I thought I was. The process of abandoning those masks and examining what was underneath. Was there even anything underneath? Because that was a fear that I had. What am I without this?
How has telling your story, even in small ways, contributed to your healing?
It does something in my heart when I can help someone else to not feel as alone as I felt for so many years. It's making the change real for me.
So, looking back now, what have you learned about yourself through this journey?
One of the main things that I learned about myself in this recovery process is that I was relying on myself in the hard times. And anytime I came up on something that I couldn't handle, instead of leaning into this faith, I would back up and switch gears and try to figure it out myself. Can't figure it out myself. I'm going to drink it away, or I'm going to hide it away, or I'm going to isolate, pull myself back, and then I won't have to deal with it. For me, I feel like that's really kind of made the difference in my life. Um, that I now have a faith that is allow it to work, allow your faith to transform you.
What would you say to someone who is watching this and thinking, I don't know if I can do this? I don't know if I can heal.
I would say to you, you can. 100% you can. And like I said earlier, you don't necessarily need to have courage. Maybe all you've got is desperation, but you can do it. You're worth doing it, right? I think that was one of the things that didn't come for me immediately, and probably doesn't, quite frankly, um, come for all of us at the very beginning of the process. Most of us get to the point that we're at feeling like we're just complete failures, or we're worthless, or we don't have an understanding of our own value. So it's hard to begin a healing process thinking, I'm doing this because I, quite frankly, am worth it. None of us think that. But if you allow the process to work, if you allow yourself to change, if you allow yourself to be open um, to all of the things that you never thought were for you, you can come to a place where you will be able to say, I am worth it.
So, one last question. So, how do you hope that your story will help others in the Lumarize community?
I hope that someone out there can see that change is possible, and can say that they are worth making, taking that first step towards change, and um, will feel empowered to take that mask off and start to display who they really are.
Awesome. Well, you've given us some really good insight here, Jeanie. I really appreciate you coming and sharing your story with us and with our community.
Thanks for having
So,
me.
absolutely, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your bravery and your honesty. And I know that your story will inspire so many people. And to all of you who are watching, remember that your story matters. Together, we can rise.